Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about Zillow and what you need to know in 2026 because Zillow has changed a lot over the last 2 to 3 years, and the changes that they've been implementing are now going to be permanent and all over the country this year. So obviously, everyone watching this video probably knows what Zillow is. It's the #1 platform for consumers browsing homes. And I 100% think that consumers should have access to websites like this where they can browse for homes themselves, as a lot of people choose to not use a realtor, or they already have a realtor, maybe they're out of town, maybe they don't want them to be sending them homes, so they can, with their own time, browse for areas they like, find out the median home value in different cities, see what has recently sold, etc. You can look for homes yourself and see if a home could be overvalued. So I absolutely love this for consumers. I don't think it's ideal that back in the day, realtors had all the information and you essentially needed a realtor to even know what homes were available for sale. But Zillow is the #1 platform for this. It is, I believe, between 45 and 50% of the entire market share for consumers browsing homes. It's twice more popular than Realtor.com, Homes.com, and any other platform. So they own a huge percent of that market share for consumers purchasing or browsing for homes. Now, initially, the way Zillow made their money is essentially they reached out to a bunch of real estate agents and said, if you want people to contact you when they're browsing for homes, if they're interested in touring a home, then we will sell you their information for whatever the average cost is in your area. So where I live in Orange County, California, it used to be $500 a phone call, then it went up to $800, and now it's like $1,200 a phone call. Sorry, when I say now, I mean in 2024, it was $1,200 per phone call if you wanted to be that point of contact when someone clicked tour property. And in 2025, they transitioned permanently away from that model into a commission-based model. So what happened was they got rid of everyone who wanted to pay for phone calls. And by the way, I have never done this. I just know a lot of teams. I used to be on a team that was part of this program, and I talked to a lot of agents that are on this program. But anyway, they transitioned into a commission-based model where instead of paying for the phone call when someone clicked request tour on a property, that person was locked into an agreement where they now had to pay Zillow 40% of their commission if that person that contacted them purchased a home. So a lot of people think that when you clicked request tour on a property, you were connected with the listing agent and you just wanted to get in to see that house. Sometimes they already had an agent, their agent was out of town, whatever the case may be. They just wanted to have a look at that property. But you don't reach out to the listing agent. You reach out to an agent now who is locked into a contract with Zillow, agreeing to give Zillow 40% of their commission. Now, a lot of people might say, well, who cares? And yeah, that's valid. Who cares if you're the consumer? You're not necessarily paying. But the issue is you are now connecting to an agent that is, one, giving away 40% of their commission to Zillow, and two, giving away an additional 50% to the team/brokerage that they are a partner with. Because individual agents do not have that partnership with Zillow. It is team leaders or leaders of a brokerage that get that platform. So the team leader or brokerage leader is taking half the commission and Zillow's taking 40%. So the agent that you are working with to find you a home, negotiate on your behalf, is losing, in most cases, 75% of their commission. When I was previously on a Zillow team, we would walk away with 25% of the total commission. Now, in the beginning, I didn't care because I just wanted as much experience as possible, and I was meeting a lot of really amazing people. But now that I've transitioned onto my own for the last couple years, where I'm just working for myself, I'm not a part of any Zillow team, I can see in hindsight that the consumers are likely not getting the best representation when they are working with an agent that is losing 75% of the total commission. And you could see this as a way for agents to not budge on their commission that they're basically getting paid by the buyer or the seller. Because if the buyer's agent says, I want 3%, and they're losing 75% of that commission, Why would they go down to 2% when it's a huge hit on their income? Someone like me who works on their own and other agents who work on their own, they don't pay Zillow. I'm more than happy to negotiate on my commission in circumstances where it is necessary to get closed on that home, to get the buyer the home that they love. If it's coming down to 1% of the commission, I don't really care. And most agents who work by themselves don't really care. So there are multiple class action lawsuits going on with Zillow right now, and I'll jump into that in a second. But what you need to understand is that in California in 2025, Zillow is 100% commission based. And now in 2026, they are transitioning the entire country into this commission-based program, which is called their Flex partnership. So moving forward, I don't know the exact date when this starts, but it is happening in 2026. Every single time someone clicks request tour on property, they are connecting with an agent that is giving away 40% of their commission to Zillow. And I personally think the consumer should be aware of this. The consumer should be aware of all fees and all referrals included in the transaction, and then decide if they want to take that step forward. California, as of this year, has implemented into the buyer-broker agreement that every buyer signs with the agent that they're using, whether or not there are referral fees included in that transaction. So Zillow, the 40% referral fee should absolutely be included in the transaction, in the buyer-broker agreement when you're representing a client. I just like full disclosure. I like consumers to be aware of everything that is going on in the transaction. And whether you decide to take this knowledge and say, actually, I don't want to use Zillow because of this, that is up to you. I will say that Zillow is amazing for browsing for homes. You can find out almost anything about the property: HOA, dollar per square foot, area, fire hazards in the area, safety score, etc. Zillow has a ton of information. I just think it would be better for consumers to find an agent in the area prior to clicking request tour on that property, because then you are meeting an agent that you already know, you've already talked to, you already are familiar with the way they work, rather than clicking request tour and meeting a random agent. You've never spoken to them, they're showing you the home, and you have to give, and they're paying Zillow 40% of the commission. So we're going to get into a couple of the lawsuits that are happening right now, because there are multiple class action lawsuits going on with the Zillow Flex program. And most consumers are not really aware of it. So here's the first one. Zillow hit with expanded class action lawsuit. Now, the reason this particular lawsuit is happening, as you can see here, class action complaint is the case known as Taylor, was filed on November 19th. Interestingly, that was my birthday, in Seattle federal court. It replaces the initial September filing, which focuses on the Zillow Flex referral program, and expands the case significantly. It's naming 10 plaintiffs across 8 states and adds Zillow Home Loans plus 3 real estate brokerage teams as defendants. So the other issue with Zillow Flex is the agent that you are connecting with, they are heavily incentivized to push Zillow Home Loans onto you. Now, from my perspective, that is likely a fair housing violation, because if that agent does not push Zillow Home Loans onto the consumer that they met through Zillow Flex, through Zillow, they are penalized with the amount of connections that they can get every month. So the agent, if they do not get a certain amount of pre-approvals from you who clicks request tour on property, they will no longer receive you reaching out to them, because they have not hit that pre-approval goal. So now you have, every time you click request tour, the agent you meet, someone random, you've never spoken to them before, it's not the listing agent, is paying Zillow 40% of the commission, and then paying their team leader or their brokerage an additional 40 to 50%, depending on what the model is. On top of that, they now have to introduce you to Zillow Home Loans every single time. They're not going to say Zillow Home Loans is an option, but this lender can get you a better rate. No, they're going to say Zillow Home Loans is the option that you need to use. And less likely to give you additional choices because they are heavily incentivized, like I mentioned, to introduce you to Zillow Home Loans. Now here it is. Here's the 40% referral fee that I spoke about. Specifically, the filing argues that prospective buyers who click contact agent or request a tour believe they are contacting the listing agent, exactly what I spoke about, but are routed to a Zillow Flex agent instead. Those consumers are then encouraged to sign a touring agreement that does not disclose Zillow's 40% Flex referral fee. So California, like I mentioned, is implementing something where buyer broker agreements are going to have referral fees in the contract, but other states don't have this yet. And California was one of the first states where Zillow went only flex. So in 2025, if you contacted an agent through Zillow, that agent paid Zillow a 40% referral fee. And moving forward, this is going to happen in every state in 2026. So again, do with this information as you please. I just like consumers to be aware of everything that is happening in a real estate transaction. And this lack of disclosure through Zillow is, I think, something that should be addressed. I haven't seen too many news articles, too many people talking about this in the industry, as a lot of large teams are part of the Zillow Flex program, so they more than likely just don't want you to know that they're working with Zillow. And unfortunately, there isn't really much incentive for a lot of agents to let you know that, hey, if you clicked request tour on Zillow, I'm paying Zillow 40%, I'm paying my team leader 35, 40%, I'm paying my brokerage 10, 15, 20%, whatever the case may be. So even though I'm representing you, I'm only getting 25, 20% of the total commission. Now, from the consumer's perspective, that agent may not represent you to the best of their ability because they're losing 75% of their total commission. Now, that is part of what this lawsuit is about, as well as keeping commissions high, because if the agent is connected with Zillow, because if you connected with an agent through Zillow, they don't really have an incentive to budge on their commission, like I mentioned earlier. So part of this lawsuit is lack of disclosure, keeping commissions high because the agents are losing an enormous amount of their commission, and lack of fair representation. Because we'll move it to a different business. If you're a contractor and you're representing someone you are going to net $10,000 for the same job versus someone who you are going to net $2,500 for the exact same job, who are you going to prioritize more? Who are you going to care about more? More than likely the job where you're going to get $10,000. But again, to each their own. I was on the Flex program for about 9 months when I first started out in the real estate industry. And then I started learning about the lack of disclosure, the issues that occurred with this program, and I left. And now I've been solely on my own for a little over 2 years. But I'm curious to know your thoughts in the comments. If you're watching this video, do you think this is something that should be disclosed, or do you think this is a non-issue for consumers and fairness overall? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're looking for an agent in Orange County, reach out. I'd love to chat. Check out my website in the description below. If you have any questions, let me know. If you like this video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.